Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira. Sitting with me again is John Teixeira.
He tried to get rid of me.
He tried to get rid of you, but unfortunately, he's still here, and we are here in the new year. Happy New Year to everybody. We are back from our little holiday hiatus, and a lot has happened since then, right? You know,
You know why I'm here?
Why are you here?
Because we are TPM.
We are TPM.
You were
right?
not TPM, and I am not TPM.
It'd be weird to
we
just
are
go,
TPM.
I am TPM. You know, that would change the whole dynamic of everything, really.
I love it. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are just going to talk about our general 2024 predictions.
Yeah, it's our first show of 2024. Why not?
Yep, why not? We gotta give some of our knowledge college. We gotta predict and put some forecasts out there and tell everybody what's going to happen in the future. I got my crystal ball here today. John's got his crystal ball here today. His
I'm warming it up.
It's a little dirtier.
I'm warming it up. Defrosting it.
Before we get into it, if you guys have any questions about any of our predictions, want to get somebody to manage your great old rental property, kick somebody out of your rental property, or whatever the heck you might need with it, give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. Let's get into it. 2024, we are here.
You know, before we get into it, this is, I really want to kind of reset the year, right? This was kind of a reset podcast. Let's talk about the coming year, but going forward in our podcast, I'm really looking forward to kind of stepping back and kind of starting over with our wealth building stories, right? Mm-hmm. Doing more interviews with people that our audience can relate to other people because they're just like them. I'm looking forward to this year and really putting some effort into really sharing not just our expertise and our opinions, but sharing the stories of others that are succeeding at different levels in both wealth building and real estate.
So you're predicting what we're going to do.
I'm predicting that we're going to do that.
Well,
yes.
That's bold. That's very bold.
That's a good idea.
We're unpredictable out here. So 2024, where do you want to start with this predictions? We ended 2023 on...
Let's start there. Go ahead.
Good terms,
right? Let's talk about where we are, where we've been in the past year, and move forward from there.
Well, part of our hiatus was because I had a kid, right?
You had a baby.
The little baby was.
I'm a grandfather now.
Grandfather. I'm a father now. You know, a lot has changed since our last podcast. I think
you're a little bit more tired than you used to be.
Yeah, I got a little bit bigger bags under my eyes. You know, but it is what it is. We're gonna get through this year. We're gonna,
You're going to get through it. You're going to get through the next one. You'll get through them all, just like everyone does.
So 2023 ended, as far as the rental sale, real estate market, ended kind of on a transition point, in my opinion. And that is transitioning from the, uncertain, high interest rate, increasing interest rate environment, decreasing inventory, just everything kind of coming to a standstill towards the end of the summer of 2023. When, like we've been saying, is kind of just 2024, the beginning of it's going to show us where we go from here. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I can say it. I think exactly what I think you were trying to say in a different way. How's this?
That's exactly what I wanted you to do.
This is the John way of saying it. Last year was all about King Biden. This year is going to be about the election cycle.
We love election cycles in real estate, don't we?
Last year, they did whatever they wanted. They did whatever they wanted to continue to divide wealth in America, which is the goal of what I believe the people in charge are looking for.
Divided wealth.
Yep.
Increasing the wage gap.
Increasing the wage gap, getting rid of as much of the wealth in the middle class as possible, which is the one thing that makes our country unique.
Yep, and it's been happening for years, but that's like a century. That's like a 21st century prediction. Like we can dive into.
I don't know. It's
year.
happening pretty quick right now, to be honest.
Yeah, well, buying up all the real estate. that's been happening for years too. So
if I were to look back on 2023, Kyle, and if you asked me regarding what we do, regarding rental management or wealth building with real estate, just, my brain's all wrapped up in the weeds of actually managing properties and tenants and so forth. So if you were to ask me, give it one word of one thing that was extremely different about 2023, and I would say the word that comes to mind is affordability.
Affordability, for sure.
I think affordability finally caught up with people. We knew it couldn't sustain the levels that things were rising at. And I think it finally hit its peak. And I think that's part of my prediction is that affordability will become less of an issue in 2024. It's not going to be fixed. It's not going to be solved in 2024. But I think it will just feel less painful than it did last year.
I somewhat agree with that statement. In the part I agree with is that affordability hit its peak towards the middle or end of 2023. However, I think the effects of affordability tail about 3 to 6 months. So when the affordability hits its peak, the defaults and delinquencies that come with that take time to show their ugly head, and the results of the affordability problem, follow out. I think you're going to continue into 2024 as far as people being able to afford their rentals, afford their mortgages. All that stuff is still a problem. It's more of the origination part of that. Like, is affordability at origination hit its peak? I think that it has. And just to describe what I mean by that is like the cost of originating that mortgage or moving into a rental property versus what you can afford. Those things have hit their peak because rates are starting to go down. Rent rates are starting to, be stagnant or go down. While, not saying wages are skyrocketing or anything, but the factors of affordability at the origination of these items has definitely hit its peak. I believe and I hope, but economic factors can change and it could keep going back up. So
can you repeat that?
The whole thing?
I'm just kidding. I'm joking with you. So I'm sitting here thinking that I lost what I was thinking actually, Kyle.
While you're still thinking about it, maybe this is a good episode to use Steve's disclaimer of this is not,
opinion.
These are opinions.
Our crystal ball works just as well as everyone else's.
This is not based on historical fact, and it is, this is opinions and not financial advice. Do your own research, blah blah blah, whatever. This is for entertainment purposes only. Whatever Charles Schwab and all those people put at the bottom of the really long ads, ditto to that.
So back to what I was thinking because I remembered what it was.
See,
Sorry
about
that.
The time.
Thank you very much.
The buffer.
I think one of the things that's coming this year is people, and this started last year, and I think we're going to get more of it this year because, as we said, affordability. What I mean by affordability easing off is rental rates are not going to continue rising and haven't been continue rising in most markets and most neighborhoods the way they were, right? Kind of started to level off and even slide back, depending on where you are. I actually have some neighborhoods where they are still rising, but overall, for the most part, either flattened out or maybe even settling back a little bit. And because of that, investors are looking at increased expenses in insurance and taxes and saying to themselves, if my rents are going down, and my taxes and insurance are going up, my cash flow is shrinking. And I think the people that are cash flow minded and to come up to use one of our old podcast titles, don't appreciate the appreciation, right?
Yeah.
And are solely focused on that cash flow. I think those are the people that are going to start, if they haven't already, they're going to start running scared and getting out of the game or realizing their losses. We've talked about that as well.
Well, in cash flow, you're talking about cash flow, so it's not just because your cash flow shrinks doesn't mean you have to realize losses. You when they dispose of these things and realize their gains, they finally appreciate their appreciation. Yeah. So, and ideally there is gains, because if your cash flow is shrinking due to taxes and insurance and all that, then you bought it back when it was at a lower price, at a lower tax. Taxes are based on appraised value. So your appraised value has gone up, your sale value has gone up, ideally. So,
and realizing it does this, right? If I'm thinking back on some old podcasts today, I'm being getting nostalgic. Remember, we used to talk about the tree of wealth, right? Mm-hmm. We used to use that as an analogy for planting this tree so that it could start building wealth for you, and how sometimes it goes through growth spurts and sometimes it doesn't, but it's still growing and you still need to just let it grow, right? Well, if you chop that thing down and drag it off and turn it into firewood and take your money for whatever it's worth, that's what I mean by realizing it, right? Whether it's a gain or a loss doesn't really matter. You've basically stopped that tree from building wealth for you any longer.
It's true.
And that's what I wish. Sometimes when people talk about selling for this reason or that reason, I wish people would sometimes look at the big picture for their own sake. Mm-hmm. If I'm 72 years old...
Well, there's good reasons. There can be good reasons.
There can be.
Know your reasons.
If I'm 72 years old, I'm on a fixed income and I'm just retired and my wife just died and I don't have that much money and I've got 4 rental properties I've been sitting on, well, maybe that's the time to start cashing in on it so that you can live out the rest of your life in a great way financially.
Yeah, especially in different interest rate environments. So, and that's part of our prediction here. I've seen a lot of other people's predictions. They're not much different than what people were predicting this time last year, except for the fact that we actually have some movement from the Fed of not increasing anymore.
And they've actually said, I believe they've actually said that they intend to scale it back over the course of this year.
They do, but based on what they said, I believe it's actually going to be till the tail end of the year. They've even kind of said that. The optimistic people in our world hope that it will be at the beginning end of the year, but...
You don't think our King and Lord up there in Washington, D.C. is not going to want to make the economy better for the election cycle?
Has he actually been in Washington, D.C. at all?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I never have.
That's true.
Side note, did you know Washington, D.C. is the cheapest city in the entire country to visit?
Really?
Yeah, because almost everything there is free.
Nothing's free in this country.
Well, when I say free, I mean like when you go do stuff there, you go spend 3-4 days there and you go to the Lincoln Memorial and the White House or whatever, the Capitol building, all that stuff is free. It doesn't cost you anything to get in, or it costs you a minimal amount of money. Anyways,
well,
side note.
I mean, like at least the one place we should be able to go see historical stuff for free is in our capital, right?
Where we pay taxes.
I imagine taxes paid built for that, right?
Yeah. That's what I try to tell you when I drive all over the road. I paid for all of these lanes and everything. So,
well, I don't believe, we've been doing this for a few years now. I mean, with these interest rates and the Fed speaking, I don't believe anything they're saying, right? My prediction is they will change what they say. I will predict very strongly with a high level of confidence that whatever the Fed is telling us right now will change at multiple points in 2024.
But they are acknowledging affordability. They are acknowledging that inflation is hit a point where they need to scale it back, and there's a lot of talk about deflation. Tell us, can you speak to deflation? Because there's a lot of talk about it. A lot of people are a lot of buzz about how bad is deflation going to be, and how bad is it going to hurt our economy. Deflation is
one of those things you don't want to predict, just like in a similar sense to inflation, because it tails, right? And it can be good, but it can be extremely bad. It can be, rapid deflation is way worse than rapid inflation, and that's because things collapse financially. Our financial system cannot handle rapid deflation. It just simply cannot. It cannot handle most things. But, at this point, it's basically a magic trick of money making with what they do. So what they can make it handle is a whole different story. But while they're fixing things, how much the value of my pocketbook goes up and down is heavily affected, right? So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Finish your thought. I was going to say most people that I've heard think that over the course sometime this year that we're going to get back down into the high fives, at least the low sixes on interest rates. Again, that's trying to predict something. We have no idea if that's going to happen, but what I want to suggest is if that happens, the pent-up demand of people wanting to buy and sell that are not happening this year is going to have a very positive change to the values of homes.
It will, and it helps cash flows too. And I've had investors, executing on this strategy is that their break even on cash flow is 0 right now, which in most these are more bold investors, of course, not the extremely conservative ones, but you buy houses at a net zero cash flow, at a 7.5 interest rate with the expectation that in 9 months you can refinance it for, mid fives, low sixes. Doesn't seem to make sense to most people, but when you think about it, at a $300,000 house at an average home price, that interest rate change on your refinance is going to change your cash flow by $400 to $600, which is huge. In 5 years ago, we weren't targeting even $400 to $600 cash flows on a conservative basis. People were targeting, $200 to $300. And a lot's changed since then. Turnover costs, repair cost, anything that has cost in the word. Anything cost has gone up. But deflation is a concern because that changes that a little bit. And deflation is probably an even more complex conversation than inflation is, because inflation really only goes one way. I don't know, that's a weird way to say it, but deflation can be a lot more rapid. It can, like, small movements in deflation can cause have huge effects in certain markets.
Yep.
I don't know. This is a prediction episode. We could do a whole episode on deflation, and most people probably don't even know what it means.
Yeah, I don't think deflation in my entire lifetime has ever been anything anybody's spoken about until now. I don't think I've ever even heard the term.
It's not generally understood.
Is that a real term?
It's not generally understood, and it's
things don't go down; they go up.
Yeah. Well, tell that to the people marking, writing up books every month and marking them to market, right, and seeing if they're what they've loaned out versus the asset value is taking an upward trend or a downward trend. So
how about this prediction, Kyle? What do you think about this one? I've been thinking a lot about this, and you and I have talked about this. The short-term rental market, I feel like, and a lot of this is gut. Some of this is just from reading the data and having so many short-term rentals that we manage and seeing what has happened to them. It seems like disposable income is not being disposed of at the same rate as it was, right?
There isn't much. Yeah, I mean,
and that affects the short-term rental market. And I think what we're going to see is what we have seen is an expansion into the market, because it's one of those Uber type of markets where anybody can get into it, right? Anybody can be an Uber driver. Anybody can go set up an Airbnb. And so that's what was happening until last year. And I think last year you started to see a little bit of a contraction of that. And I think we're going to see more of that this year.
I think we will, because 2023's data is very interesting. It shows, it's a lot of people ran from the short-term rental market just because it kind of like the real estate market, it wasn't just throw it up and make money, right? You had to actually do it right and treat it right, host it right, all those things.
It's a business. It's a real business.
Which started in 2022, and we talked about that last year, but 2023, now that we have all the data from the year, shows a huge gap between the successful listings and the not. Like, there's like a high end and a low end now. The medium grade ones that were just throwing it up and making money don't exist anymore. And that's because, demand went down because disposable income went down. We are talking about a luxury spending market where people own, like, long-term rentals. People need a place to live. People don't have to go on vacation and rent an Airbnb. There's nothing that it means you have to do that, right? So in business travel, which was what propped this up in low disposable income markets pre-2020, has never recovered since COVID. Like it's just the whole structure of how businesses operate with business travel and all those things has completely changed.
To your point, it's not just business travel, but think about it. I was always amazed of, Kyle, and this is interesting, that all the different associations that are out there that you couldn't even fathom how many associations there are, and they have events in different places for different reasons, whether it's their annual convention or their East Coast meeting and their West Coast meeting or whatever it is. I mean, like, there are so many of those previous to COVID, and all of it got shut down in COVID. And I feel like what probably happened, and what I know happened in some instances, is you have all these ancillary things, events happening. Let's just call them events by way of associations, sporting events, cheerleading, whatever it is, right? And a certain percentage of those probably didn't survive and make it back post-COVID. And so there's less people traveling to and from these events because of it.
Yeah, and it's the last thing to recover. I mean, you're talking more about entertainment events. Well, entertainment events have recovered and will recover a lot quicker than business travel and that kind of thing, because during COVID, these businesses had to completely change on both ends, on the hosting side and the people who come to it and all that. Some of these jobs just completely went away. So they'd have to completely change their business structure for a year or two. Those things don't just get switched back immediately because everybody's got to do it, and that takes time. Yeah. So that was one of the things that's always propped up, call it the travel and hotel industry, which is now the short-term rental industry as well. That just isn't at what it used to be. So, but people are still traveling, it's kind of like a few of these markets we're going to talk about, but we started last year and really midway through 2022 in just a saturated short-term rental market. There was way too much inventory and demand was going down. Well, inventory has gone down. People ran, people stopped creating as much, there's not new ones going up constantly. So while that has gone down with demand, that kind of helps sustain it and stabilize it. But, everything was affected in the short-term rental market. So I predict that we will have that 2024 will be more of a stabilization, because while recognizing that disposable income is going down and at a low, inventory is also going down because people look at the market and they're like, all right, well, we're not jumping into this. So
exactly,
it's going to be a lot more of the players who have done well even through this are going to
do even better
or continue to do good, but probably even them not adding as much inventory as before. So,
we're being really careful about where we add short-term rental inventory for sure for that reason. But
yeah.
So, all right. So if we kind of summarize some of our predictions, affordability is still going to be around, maybe eased up a little bit. Interest rates sure to go down, and that will bring inventory and real estate activity up.
I do strongly believe they're not going to go up anymore. So that's a positive, right? So the interest rates aren't going to increase in 2024 because, it's also, you mentioned it being an election year. So what the Fed does, they're an independent entity. They don't do what they do at instruction of the executive office.
I'm gonna laugh while you say that.
But at the same time, they have to be prepared for like Jay Powell, right? Let's just get into that. Jay Powell, the head of the Fed. I don't see him being the head of the chairman of the Fed after this election cycle, regardless of who wins. I think he gets replaced, or he retires, or he doesn't want to do this crap anymore, right? He's had probably one of the most hectic seats.
If you think that they're not all puppets to whoever's in there, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. They're all puppets to whoever's in there.
Oh, I do. But Jay Powell has sat on, as the chairman of the Fed through Trump and Biden, right? And it hasn't changed much of their economic planning. So either way, I think. But he can be replaced by either of those people, you know? So I don't know. What they do in preparation for a possible change in regime is way harder to predict, right?
Change in regime, I like it.
Like
now you're starting to talk like me.
If the Fed chairman thinks that they're about to have a complete change in policy and a new person sitting in it, right? That stuff can't change in a day.
They may change their way of thinking, right? Exactly.
It might not, though.
No, I mean, it may not affect too much of what they do because that isn't the main drivers to their decision making. But if they're on the fence on something and they got this guy over here or they got this guy over here, that might sway them just a little one way or the other. Right?
Yeah, but I will sit here and say my last thing I'm going to really try to predict is the Fed because,
go for it.
Inflation was transitory 2 years ago, right? And that was probably anyone with 20/20 vision or not blind could see that was.
I was blind.
You were blind.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
I was blind.
You didn't believe
but
that
now
either.
I see.
So now you see.
Yeah.
It feels transitory, right? Every time I spend.
Does that mean they're homeless?
$19 at Chick-fil-A. Huh?
Does that mean they're homeless?
Who?
The inflation is homeless? It's homeless. And you said transitory, isn't that? Never mind.
It hasn't transitioned anywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't even know what you're saying there, but yeah, so interest rates are not going up, going down. I think home rates, in my opinion, will probably stagnate for that reason. If interest rates were continuing to go up, we'd see lower home prices. But because they're going down, we're going to see, if they go down rapidly, like very rapidly, we're going to, which is probably why this is not going to happen, you will see a frenzy again of, home inventories going up and prices going up really quickly. We'll be right back to where we were in 2021, in my opinion.
I hope that doesn't happen. That would be stupid. I hate that all that stuff that happened, but I do firmly believe that there is an enormous, pent-up, ready-to-go amount of people ready to buy and ready to sell that aren't doing it for all the reasons we've talked about, all the economic reasons. There's a lot of reasons not to do anything, which is why our activity is down this year so much. And so it may not even take much of a move in interest rate to create a little bit of a frenzy.
It won't, but yeah, I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but for example, if we got into the fives before summer,
oh goodness,
that would be hectic.
That would be
right
make
back
for a crazy summer again.
We'd be right back to July of 2021, right, where inventory is skyrocketing and prices are skyrocketing with it, right? But I mean, they've done what they've done over the last 2 years to stop that and to stall that and to send it the other way. It'd be pretty stupid to just throw it back on the fire, which is why my prediction is that they will start decreasing them at the tail end of summer, even maybe during summer. But I don't think that they will have much more than. I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think they'll decrease them until that point. But I may be wrong by a couple basis points, but significant decreases I don't see until the end of the year. So, and I say this because you're going to see a lot of people are out there predicting. Especially in our industry, that they will go down starting at the beginning of the year. And I think that's just trying to spark interest and movement in the market.
So if you're thinking about what you should be doing based on all these predictions, I have a little bit of a message, and I'm going to use. Can I use my Tesla story a little bit as an analogy, maybe, because I don't know if this will help people. If people could use this as an analogy for their real estate buying decisions. Elon Musk was selling the Model S that I wanted for $140,000 a year ago. Right? Mm-hmm. It was a year ago. And there was no way I was paying that much money for a car. Like, that's almost a house. Like, I'm not doing it. That's crazy. Now he's got that same Model S. I can pick that thing up for like $68,000, $72,000. That's still a lot of money for a car. But the point is, because interest rates went up, I feel like, I don't know that this was his thing, but I feel like he brought it down to make it more affordable so that he can continue selling them. While the interest rates were going up, his prices were going down. I also feel like because of that, he wants that Model S to be exclusive model. It will go back up as interest rates go back down. And so, just like houses, right now is a great time to buy houses, get better deals, if you're a first-time home buyer, to get contributions from sellers. It seems like a kick in the gut when you're at the closing table and you're about to pay, 7.5% for an interest rate, and your mortgage payment is going to be higher than you've ever paid in rent. I get it, but if you wait till what we're talking about later on in the year when things going crazy, now it's going to be more difficult to buy. Your price is going to be higher. Sellers are not going to be as flexible with terms. Buy now while all that works in your favor, and then refinance in 9 months or a year down the road when interest rates are more favorable. Just like I'm thinking about doing with the Tesla, right? Buy it now. While the price is low, I'm going to get kicked in the pants on my interest rate, but I know that it's going to come down. I can refinance it next summer.
Yeah.
Well, that's my thought.
I like that thought, but a Tesla isn't an investment.
The Tesla is not an appreciating asset. But that's the difference.
State that right now, that I do not predict that you will make money off your Tesla purchase. Okay,
I'm gambling. If I do that, it's more of a gamble than it would be with real estate. No, I was just using it.
It's not a gamble. Gamble has an opportunity to make money. I don't think you have that. But
no.
He said no, gambling does not.
No, because my current Tesla also went down, and it's underwater too because of all this.
Hey, well, there's your testament. So, but I mean, you never know. The buy now thing that you just said is true. Because I'll tell you this, there's a high level of confidence that home prices aren't going to go down when interest rates go down, right? And there's a higher level of confidence that interest rates aren't going to go up anymore, and that they're going to be going down by the end of the year. Now, how rapidly that happens, we don't know. I don't even think the Fed knows, because they're balancing way too many things. This affordability problem is also something that plays into their decisions, right? Mm-hmm. If the economy gets too bad or looks like it's about to fall off a cliff, they're going to do what they did last time. They're going to drop interest rates and ignore the real estate market problem. And
jobless claims are not a problem yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do by summer? So, I think it'll be the most telling first and second quarter we've had in a couple years. But we could be here in 6 months talking about the same thing. So. I don't know how much money they're going to print between now and then. I've stopped trying to predict that figure.
Do you have any other predictions for 2024?
I don't know.
I predict that my grandson's going to get even cuter than he is right now.
That is true. I predict that he's going to sleep a lot more than he does right now. So that's more of a hope than a prediction, I think. I predict I'm going to own more real estate by the end of the year. How about you, John?
Yes, I predict that both of us are going to own more real estate before the end of the year. I also have a final prediction that one of those hazelnut truffle chocolate things in front of us is going to go in my stomach before I leave this studio.
Yeah, Steve's got us some candy. So, I predict we'll be back in here doing more podcasts,
I'm looking forward to it, Kyle. I really want to bring, we've gotten a lot of feedback over the holidays. Look at this. Look at this. Is this our Christmas gift, our New Year's gift?
For everybody listening, Steve just instead of teasing us with one hazelnut, he just gave us an entire box.
That's nice of you. Thank you very much, Steve.
I predict that I will be eating hazelnut chocolate in my future.
I predict a sugar high. I forgot what we were saying, what we were talking about.
Owning more real estate.
Owning more real estate. I definitely think that we'll both own more real estate and continue building wealth with real estate, continue building our business, and continue helping other people build wealth. It doesn't matter what the economic conditions are. We are going to keep doing what we do, stay focused on what we do. We will always adjust how we do it with the microeconomy that we're currently in, but it's in general, the big picture is exactly the same.
Yep.
Stay the course.
Stay the course. And I mean, we do actually put our money where our mouth is, right? We do these things we talk about on this podcast. Sometimes when we say our investors or,
sometimes they're us.
Sometimes they're us. We have to keep it vague for the point of the show, but a lot of times they are us. So if you want to talk about what we are actually doing or where we're actually putting our money or our predictions where our mouth is, right? Give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. And also, shoot us an email if y'all want any topics in 2024, questions you want us to answer, experiences you want us to go through. Shoot us an email, showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. We might go over that topic. You might get answers to exactly what you want to know.
You know what? We've gotten lots of feedback during this holiday season while we were kind of off and not posting podcasts. We've gotten lots of feedback from people that we didn't even realize were following us and asking about, our upcoming shows and there's people out there listening to this for some reason, Kyle.
I know. So if you want an episode, like you wanted an episode tailored specifically to you guys, these things are extremely well thought out. So,
we think about them for all of like 3 minutes before we show up at the studio.
We will try. We want to try to do some that people come to us with. So on that note, give us a call, 817-818-9039. We are TPM. Show me the money at wearetpm.com. And we are out.